What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through my new up-to-date draft for Game Week 1. So it's been about a week since I released my first draft video, so the perfect time to give you guys the changes that I have come up with after analyzing the players a bit more. Now, if you guys haven't watched my pricing mistakes video, I'm not going to spoil it by saying that I think FPL has got the pricing right this season, but I think the combinations that we've seen in terms of Salah, Haaland, or going for no premiums is quite refreshing. So in this video, I'll be going through the changes I've made. I've actually made quite a few, but you still have a few days and weeks left till that Game Week 1 deadline, so plenty of changes can still be made. Let me know in the comments down below how your draft is going. You can also drop any questions you guys do have in the comments down below on my Discord server. It's one of the first links in the description. But if you guys want to see the changes I've made to my current draft, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So just a reminder, before we get into the actual team, I've had a bunch of questions in my Twitter DMs and on my Discord server about how do you guys get access to my team when I make my transfers, and I'm here to say that I do release my transfers to my Legend members on Discord and YouTube. I've had some questions about the fact that not every country has access to YouTube kind of membership, so just DM me on Twitter if you guys are having that kind of problem. But don't worry, my content is absolutely free in terms of my kind of team selections, my transfer plans, and my deadline streams. So let's, for example, say I make a transfer in my deadline stream live on air, everyone will get access to that transfer. Also, if I release a video after I've made a transfer, I will disclose that 100%. It's just giving those live transfer updates only to my Legend members. But I just appreciate you guys supporting me as you've done throughout this preseason. I always do appreciate it. But let's head back onto the actual team, as that's what you guys are kind of here for. Hopefully this season's going to be an absolute banger and we can push for a 5th top 10k finish to accompany those nice ranks on the top right hand side. So the first player, let's get him out the way. It's the Norwegian Erling Haaland. So yes, I haven't kind of changed this position. I've been a Haaland backer since my first draft, and I can't really see myself going without him. I just feel like there's too many kind of talking points as to why Haaland could have a massive season again. The fact that he's at a full rest and a full preseason, unlike players who traveled to the Euros, and we've already seen him scoring in preseason. So while I can appreciate those no Erling Haaland drafts, it's not really where my head is at the moment, so I'm fine with paying 15.0 million. Now the big talking point, if you guys have noticed, is where's the armband on Erling Haaland? Well, that's because I'm bringing in another premium asset. So yes, you probably guessed it right, Mo Salah has entered my draft, even though he comes in quite expensive at 12.5 million. Now as a Liverpool fan, I've been sleeping a bit easier over these past few days with Salah in my draft, especially with the Kamsi armband for Game Week 1. So yes, compared to my first draft, this is probably the massive change that I have done. And because of that increased price tag, we've had to cut some costs in other positions. So let me know in the comments down below, are you guys going for both premium assets, or are you guys only on Salah or only Haaland? And how's that draft looking at the current moment? Now I forgot to mention, I'm going to build this draft slightly differently to maybe how other people do it. I'll be going over the most important positions first, almost building from the top down. So let's go over another forward that I think is almost essential or has been in most of my drafts, and that's Isaac from Newcastle. Now we have had news since my last update that Callum Wilson will probably miss the start of the season, as surprise he's currently injured. So for me, I said this in my pricing review video, whichever Newcastle forward is fit, if they are nailed, they're absolutely worth their price tag with their stats. So Isaac's going nowhere unless he gets injured. 8.5 million with some great fixtures to come up, looks a good price, and I've even doubled up on that Newcastle attack. So this probably tells you what you need to know about my midfield department. If Gordon's my second midfielder at his price point, you guys can see that I'm going quite cheap in other positions. So like with Isaac, great kind of value that you are getting with Gordon, and we saw that in that pricing review video. So 7.5 million, I'm perfectly fine kind of paying for this. I think the slot will probably be rotated as the game weeks go by, but I can see myself owning both these two assets for a few game weeks. Now another midfielder that hasn't left many of my drafts is going to be Nkunku, and this might just be copium because I don't own Cole Palmer. I think in my mind I've convinced myself that Nkunku can cover Cole Palmer. Can he? Absolutely not. He just comes in a lot cheaper. So let's see how that Chelsea kind of preseason does progress, a few games still coming up, but at the moment Nkunku looks a lock with their great fixtures from Game Week 2 onwards. Now the next position might be slightly controversial, but it's actually going to be going for some Arsenal coverage. The question is it in midfield or the forward department? So you might have deduced the fact that the price point's a little bit weird in the midfield department, so I'm actually going to go for a forward, and that's Havertz at 8.0 million. So I just wish I had an extra 1.0 to be a forward someone like an Ollie Watkins, but as mentioned, I wanted some Arsenal coverage, and I guess that's what Havertz is going to be. Now I know what you guys might be commenting right now. Arteta has just come out and said that Jesus is looking strong and fit, and Havertz hasn't even got any minutes in preseason, but I just feel like Arteta does prefer the German up front. So like with Nkunku, I don't think Havertz can necessarily kind of cover Saka, but at centre forward he's definitely be getting some chances up front, but he's not the most secure player in my draft at the moment. Let me know what you guys think. I've seen some love for Havertz over on FPL Twitter, but I think the majority of people probably will say he might be a little bit overrated, so this slot could be changed. Now I'm going to jump into my defensive position because I wanted to see how my defense set up before finalizing the last midfielder slot, just to see how much money I had in the bank. So you guys will know that I've been speaking about this kind of one premium defense quite a bit over the past few videos, and I'm still going to be sticking with Gabriel. Now I know that Arsenal just signed a new kind of defender. He was actually announced at 6.0 million, so the exact same as Gabriel and Saliba. I actually wish he came in at 5.5. But it seems like he's going to be playing left back or as a kind of replacement for Saliba if Saliba does need a rest, and therefore Gabriel should be okay. So like with the previous videos, I've been recommending Gabriel for his increased attacking threat, but Saliba has the higher ownership at the moment. So is it worth going for someone like a Gabriel or a Guardiola? These two kind of assets in my opinion are maybe a 50-50 in the defensive department, but I'm going to stick it on the Arsenal man because I think Arteta rotates less. So what I then did was I probably completed my defensive department when I was making this draft, and I went super cheap for the remaining players. So that therefore left me with 0.0 in the bank and 5.5 for a midfielder slot, and there were a few assets. I was looking at Hudson-Odoi or Elanga from Nottingham Forest. They have 3 great games to start the season, but I landed on the more reliable Andreas Pereira from Fulham. Now if I did go for a Muniz instead of a Havertz, I probably wouldn't double up on that Fulham attack, but with 2 newly promoted sides in the next 3, I went for Andreas in that midfielder slot. Should be on penalties, and at 5.5 he's produced quite a few attacking returns, and I think he's going under the radar at the moment in this kind of budget midfielder range. But probably another position I wish I had an extra 1.0 million, I would probably go for a Leon Bailey or someone like that, but at 5.5 Andreas might be a steal. Now let's give our defense and our goalkeepers some love because that's the last position to kind of complete. In terms of the goalkeeper, I've gone for a very simple 4.5 with Flecken, and his replacement at Brentford at 4.0. So in terms of Flecken and other 4.5s, there's not much in it at the moment. I'm simply going for a reliable option and an option I can get the replacement at 4.0, but if we get news about a Henderson being nailed at Crystal Palace, I might go for him. So at the moment, very kind of, as I said, boring 4.5, but that's all your 4.5 goalkeeper needs to be. Now I'm going to then complete our 2 cheap bench fodder options. That's 4.5 for Winks. This is another position that you guys can go for other options. There is the debate of potentially not going for a high owned option as they might drop in price. Then Harwood Bellis from Southampton scored in preseason at 4.0 million, looks good value, but you could go for Barco from Brighton as he also might be quite nailed. Now let's complete our defense, and I'm left with a 4.5 bracket unless I go for a cheaper option, but I'm going to stick with Robinson at Fulham at 4.5. We kind of spoke about that rotation in the fixture guide video. Now in terms of other Fulham defenders, there are a few like Castagna and Aina for example. These options could be good value. I'm just going to stick Robertson in here as a placeholder. Now the 2 other 4.5s will be Anderson from Crystal Palace, my personal favorite 4.5. I think he might actually be quite underpriced. And then Konza from Aston Villa. Now once again, shout out to my fixture guide video that I released a few days ago, as this rotation pairing does look quite strong on paper. With those Aston Villa fixtures, I think Konza, if he is nailed at that fullback slot, hopefully he can take advantage of that sea of green. Now in terms of other 4.5 options, you'll notice I've dropped Dan Burn out of my team. I just don't feel like those fixtures are that good on paper. If Livramento though becomes nailed, if Trippier leaves, he could be a great asset, as I consider him to have more attacking threat than a Dan Burn. But that's going to wrap up our defense, and as a whole it's going to wrap up our starting 11 and our 4 bench options. As you can see, we've gone cheaper in the other departments to incorporate the Egyptian Mo Salah. So let me know what you guys think about this draft. Do you think it's better or worse than my first draft? And post your current draft in the comments down below. Now before we go over the video, unlike last time, I'll be going over the fixtures, and let's see if there's any variations that we could go for. So as you guys can see, we've got some pretty strong fixtures. You'd expect that because it is game week 1, and the bench pretty much kind of picks itself. Now the only position, like I mentioned in my first draft, is can I go for Nkunku and do maybe a straight swap for game week 2? I just don't feel like there's that much potential in that 6.5 bracket for a 1-week punt. Also added to that, probably not the best idea to bank a transfer before the game has even started. I just don't know how Chelsea would do against Man City at home. Once again, Salah captain because he has the better fixture, but I still probably expect Erling Haaland to perform quite well. And if Manchester United start the season like they ended the season, Andreas could absolutely feast here. But once again, a few games left of preseason, which is going to give us a ton of information, so I'm expecting this draft to change in 1 or 2 positions. I will update you though as the days go by and as we approach that game week 1 deadline. Make sure those bell notifications are turned on because a ton of videos are going to be coming your way very shortly. But this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you didn't, subscribe if you have subscribed yet. And I'll see you guys for tons more content leading up to that game week 1 deadline. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.